I do the slides and you
Uh,
take over.
Yeah, great, excellent. So yes, hello to everyone from my side. I'm CTO at ÖBB, and in this context here, I'm also together with Jens Engelmann, the program manager for the European DAC delivery program. And we are grateful, really excited. It's 129 already. So, Giorgio, really great job by inviting so many people and making clear to everyone in a way that this is a very important issue here. And once again, we are grateful and very much appreciate your interest in today's meeting, and of course in being partner, taking part in the initiative, especially when it comes to the pre-deployment trains. So the DAC technology, the DAC system, of course, we have a clear objective here in terms of gaining productivity. We know that with the DAC system, a lot of things will be easier, will be faster. We will save a lot of time. And this also allows then, of course, the increase of capacity. So a lot of infrastructure capacity will be affected once there will be DAC operations in as much as possible different areas. And of course, it's also a matter of quality. So we have three main pillars where we see this DAC initiative, the DAC technology, really being of added value, productivity gains, quality gains, and very important capacity gains to a very significant manner. Some also say we could say the DAC initiative is partly or mainly maybe an infrastructure initiative by getting smart capacity in a way much faster than with conventional extension of the network. But I guess you all know about that, so this is why we only slightly touch this main issues of the DAC, as we want to then have a more focused discussion and presentation coming to the pre-deployment trains. So 185 years of screw coupling. You all know that the European continent is a relict, is one of the last continents. It is the last continent. Jens always says, I think North Korea, Europe, and I don't know, there's a third area where we still see screw coupling being, let's say, the main way of operating freight business on rail. So of course, that's not the latest technology. We know that almost centuries ago, different continents decided to have the DAC, the automatic coupling. But what we're talking here today is the digital automatic coupling. As in the year 24, of course, you can imagine there's a lot of more things possible with having data and energy on our freight trains. And once we discuss DAC, it's not only the coupler, it's not only the coupling system, it's more than that. There is a lot of additional applications, and we always see this as a package fitting perfectly together. And a couple of months ago, we decided to have the first step, the basic package with the automatic coupling function, with the train composition, with the uncoupling, with also the automatic brake tests, really giving us a lot of added value, reducing time and of course costs, and the train integrity as a function then for enabling moving block operations to increase further the capacity on tracks. So these are the main, let's say, focus areas for this basic package. There is a lot of more we can work on, we can upgrade later on based on the respective CBAs, so what's in and what are the costs. But this core package is, let's say, the minimum package of really bringing this expected added value to the European rail freight system. But, and that's the next slide, and that's a very important one, as we, of course, will have to be careful before we talk about really starting this huge investment, this full deployment. 6 major points, 6 major principles, 6 preconditions need to be met. The first one is that we want to have and we want to see being this a harmonized single European system. So we cannot allow this being a slightly different system in Spain or France and than in Austria or Germany or Switzerland, wherever. Single European system. That's the only chance we have here. And the technology, it needs to meet all the essential requirements, especially reliability, of course, but maintainability, safety, security issues, they all need to be solved and they need to be proven through large demonstrations. So not only having some PowerPoint slides and maybe some laboratory conditions and reports that in the lab it finally turned out that we have the expectation it could work, that's not enough. We need to see proof, and proof means not only operating one train, we need to have millions of kilometers in different operational conditions. And there you see why it's so important to not only have demonstrator trains, why we call for these pre-deployment trains in order to make this right this time. We have our lessons learned as a sector from ETCS and other, in principle, interesting and good technologies. But when it came to migration and deployment, sometimes we at least had the impression they came too earlier, or sometimes there was still 1 or 2 years missing of finally bringing this technology to the edge of maturity where it is needed when it comes to investments. So single European system, no, just please keep this slide. The second point then is the technology needs to be proven. The third one is that the operational functionalities and the use cases, of course, also need to be proven with these demonstrators. We need to have a clear picture, a clear focus, a clear view on the CBA. And of course, we need to have the adequate funding programs, be it on the national or European level, in place, of course, reflecting the different needs in different regions and different circumstances for operators, wagon keepers, and whoever is involved in this value chain. And the fifth point is also a very important one, talking about 300, maybe 400,000 wagons, 20,000, 30,000 locos. This is still subject for detailed calculations, how many. So the numbers are not yet 100% sure, but what is clear is that we need to have something like a fast lane authorization procedure. It needs to be different than the conventional way. Otherwise, it's not possible to manage this. And the final point here, that's imperative. We need to have a sound, well-coordinated migration plan all over Europe. If this is not in place, we will not be in the position to make these steps in a synchronous manner and generate benefit along the cross-border transport lines and routes in Europe. On the next slide, we see all the different DAC-related activities. On the left side, you see the flagship project 5, where we deal with the development of this technology, the further development of the technology, the package, not only the coupler, by the way, so e-coupler and then the other parts. And there will be testing and demonstration in lab, and finally also with demonstrator trains, but that's not the pre-deployment trains. In the middle, you see the migration roadmap coming from the fleet analysis, retrofitting capacity plan, starting with the workshops, the production line, the full value chain, then at the end, retrofitting plan, placing into service ideas, etc., infrastructure adaptation. So that's an all-in menu, a lot of areas and fields we are dealing with. And then you see also the needs for standardization, of course, on the right side. And below you see the box, the 100 pre-deployment trains. This is what we want to discuss today with you. It's so much of importance that we not only have and we can see on the next slide, maybe in a better way, that we don't only have on focus on the development of the technology. That's the box you see on the left side, already started in the year 2022, and it's going until the year 26, where we will have then the technology being finally developed and tested. But then the pre-deployment trains need to run something like 2 years, millions of kilometers in different areas of Europe, different operational conditions. But of course, having a focus on the commercial and the business perspective. And still there will be the final gains of information, of learning to complete this technology, to make this technology ready to be deployed in the year 28. And in parallel, we are working on the migration plan, the development of it, and at the end, we will know, or we assume as for now, that we might need something like a deployment management entity for coordination of this full deployment in Europe. But still have in mind, based that the 6 preconditions will be met: technology, functionality, single European system, the authorization procedure in place, the funding and the business case must be clear for everyone, and of course the migration plan. Based on that, that's the assumption. We see this happening as here in this plan. That's the so-called DAC General Master Plan 01. And of course, this is subject to be further amendment based on the upcoming developments. But that's the plan for now. And in this context, Jens, I think it's time to deep dive and come to the details of the deployment trains. I hope I made clear that's so much important in the overall context, but all about the details. Jens, please.
Many thanks for introduction, Giorgio, and for setting the scene here, Mark. Yes, I'm Jens Engelmann. I'm Mark's co-program manager here of the EDTP. You see the logo on the right side of the page. And I mean, exactly these details, we started them, or the joint undertaking, let's precisely said, started these details with a letter to all of you. And we think that I've seen some 139 plus participants in the meantime, that you have been motivated to join this session here because this letter is out, and this letter says, hey, please join this initiative. We need now some operators and some input givers for these 100 pre-deployment trains. And this was published on the 17th of January. And now let's look into the details, what we want to do with you and what shall be done in detail in these trains. And I move on. Mark said it already. Giorgio said it also in the beginning, we need to have major technology, but still here in precision. 3 objectives. The first is certainly that you get a reliable and functioning technology that proves that it works. I mean, this is already done in the FP5, but you never know. You need a large scale, you need a statistically relevant number of operations to see that there is really more or less everything sorted out. Just the demo trains are not sufficient for that. And also to assess if the assumptions taken are met later on. Think of the preconditions that Mark mentioned, yeah? And they have all to be proven then, because that is also impacting then the business case. And this means that there is also a feedback loop in this period where we have to align with the developers of the technology and all that. So this means all the maturity for technology is under topic 1. But there is more, because there's also this box of the pre-deployment management, and we need some funding management, we need stakeholder management, we need interaction with the stakeholders, we need to learn how to do that later for a bigger scale, and this is testing all these processes and prove the added value that we can do it here. And second big objective. And the third one, this goes back to the system pillar of the Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking, is that even with the best testing and authority, it might be that in some areas of the system, of the overall railway system, we might still have a corner which we didn't look at. Not a regulatory corner normally, but maybe a reliability or functionality corner. And this we have to see. Operational rules, integration of IT systems, all this you can only test if you have more sample size. 3 objectives for the program. And this is more or less already determining what we want to do with you. So Mark said it, the basic package, don't need to stay too long on that. These are the functionalities that will go first. We have added here that, of course, also the hybrid coupler for locos shall be tested, and some special solutions if they apply, depending on what kinds of traffic we can get. But it's the coupler, it's train composition, automatic brake tests, so everything that Mark has said. The basic package, yeah? These trains shall be equipped with that so that we get maturity on those components. And now, what are we looking for? So we certainly want, Mark shortly touched upon it, a balance of different European regions, that we don't do all the testing, let's say, in Czech Republic or in Denmark or so. It would be also nice to do it in France and everywhere, because we everywhere have stakeholders and people and companies who are interested. We always have different customers, different stakeholders, and different market conditions. So that would be good. And this means also that we should, as much as possible, have shunting operations in these operations. Shuttle trains is good. We also take shuttle trains, but if there is some block train formation in sidings and so on, it would be excellent. Different loco and wagon types, we need to know what to prepare for the engineering and for the integration systems. And then certainly we would be happy if we would get and attract partners here, which are at the moment not yet engaged or involved, although Javier, Giorgio, Mark, it's difficult to find someone who is not yet in touch with our program, I would say, but there are sometimes, and at least some more customers. And you see here all the wagon keepers and all the leasing companies and all those a little bit more enthusiastic front runners who would also like to join on this technology, and especially, I would say, competition advantage initiative. And we said for ease that approach, we cannot just run test trains. We have to operate as much as possible under commercial operation, because it would be most unlikely to have stuff for 100 test trains, which are constantly sitting in the sidings on the train and doing supervision. There might be a certain support needed under special conditions we have to work out. Mark talked about authorization, and but in the end, these trains should operate under daily conditions so that we really can achieve maturity information and gain maturity information for this duration of around 2 years. And as it is not only about the technology and the processes, I mean, there's also something in for you. And Mark, I would maybe for this slide quickly hand back to you, because you represent here a railway undertaking and a big company, and please let our partners know what's in for them here.
Yeah. Yes. Just being very frank. I mean, being a partner here in this context, it gives you the opportunity at the end to of course have the details, see all what is connected to finally proving, once again, I already made it clear with the preconditions, to prove that the technology and the functionality is as expected, so that the technology is working and the functionality is giving the benefit as expected. And it's also giving you the opportunity, the chance to therefore pave and prepare the way for decision making in case, of course, everything has been approved, everything has been shown, and there is proof that this is working in a way like we want to see it. That then you can also have, let's say, that you can be a front runner and that you have paved the way for the decision making for the investment. And finally, you can, in a more general way, get ready for this transformation. So you will get a lot of insights. You will be part of it, and you will stepwise see the development of in the next steps of what is happening here. So it's a lot of advantage, it's a lot of chances, it's a lot of opportunities, and the risk is limited. Of course, we need to detail everything. We need to find ways to make this package become reality, these 100 trains. And I mean, we need to be very frank. We still need to discuss funding, co-funding, financing issues. Later on, we will discuss this, and there will be also, I think, Jens, a slide or a couple of information coming from your side. But as for now, as being an operator, I'd say there's much more of chances than risks of being a partner here. So why the hell shouldn't I be partner of it? So please, I want to encourage all of you to think about that, and to show your interest, to express your interest, and to start discussing with us what you can imagine of contribution, operating trains, or whatever you can imagine could be of help here for this pre-deployment phase. Jens, back to you.
Many thanks, Mark. And this is reaching out to really all in the sector. This is to privates, to incumbents, to all. I mean, if we talk about transformation, we all need to be enthusiastic about it, and let's test it and so on. And exactly what Mark said, so we can only underline that it's not only about helping us, it's also we help you.
It's an opportunity.
Definitely. A last word, there is something, because you will get the slides later on after the meeting, there is something a little bit more detailed on testing conditions in corrosive environments with a lot of shunting and dusty and heavy trains and so on. We have compiled something which is in the backup. You will see this gives you maybe some more inspiration to think about. And also, by the way, if you just have ideas and you want to discuss them with us and you are not completely clear if this is a good candidate or so, flag it. We will discuss it, and then we will see. We need ideas. We need something on the table for the big puzzle that we can build the different things together, which leads then naturally to the phasing and planning. So it's not a myth here. It's clear. I mean, there's a go, no-go decision somewhere at the end of the phase one, which is the preparation, because we need, of course, it was said, to secure all the funding financing conditions. We need to have the stable technical solutions that it really can work, and under certain pre-authorization or authorization conditions not yet known. And we need to have all the staff trained, coming in touch with this. We have to solve damage wagon management or whatever, And this is then rolling stock readiness, loco upgrades wherever possible. This means we need the information, which types of locos, and we will take care for the preparing. And then there is certainly from the joint undertaking side, there are the different results, and including there will also be additional calls. Calls means that the joint undertaking will certainly hand out projects or call for tenders for proposals for different areas like engineering solutions and more. There will be absolutely more support for the things still missing, and the joint undertaking will continue to support on that. And then certainly in the operations, but this was already all said, there needs also be a monitoring and interaction with customers. This is also important that we discuss with you how to handle your customers. We have also already had the table, the question on the table, how we can guarantee then the services for customers if it's a little bit sensitive, all things to be sorted out. And this then all goes into the assessment, and we can see what needs to be improved. And this is an ongoing cycle. This is an optimization cycle, of course, yeah, for the operation then. The project structure itself, you will be interested how we set that up. This is not entirely clear, but here at least the ideas of the joint undertaking, what the joint undertaking and the program will offer. We intend to have this centralized, and not in the sense of bosses, but in the sense of support and alignment. And it will be aligned with the EDTP structure or closely connected to, not yet totally clear, can be more a matrix, you know. And it will involve all participating companies and leads then to this constant best practice exchange, knowledge sharing, and so on. And also about communication, support, joint, all needs to be built up, but this is at least as we intend to do it. Central aids on authorization and checking if there are modules maybe for safety management systems for the operational rules, and of course the interaction with the NSAs. This is something that also still the flagship project 5 is working out how to interact best for these testing regimes. Here the agency is heavily involved in that, and the commission on finding the best regime. I mean, there needs always to be the disclaimer, Mark said it already, if we have the financing and funding and if we have the sufficient number of participants, but this is at least what we are aiming at. But the funding and financing, to be very clear, is also something that we don't have yet. Yeah, it's not available for the large-scale testing, but you can be sure that everybody here in the program is exploring which possibilities we have. These investigations have been started on the European level, on national level, and so on. And we take care for investigating that further and find something. And that gives you also the opportunity that you nominate, please, in those cases, what you see as a funding need, which kind of support or financing need. And what we think is that we have to have a substantial list of those things that we want to operate all together, because that's a precondition for this ambitious plan for the funding and financing. It's always better to have an idea, to come up with something for what you ask money than the other way, first to ask money and then someone should maybe do something with it. So we intend to have it the other way around. And that would lead now, after this phase, to the next steps about notifications and so on. And here I give back to Mark, because we can then all have the questions in the Q&A part of the meeting.
Yes. So we really speed it up, because we are, of course, very much interested in the Q&A, and it should start something like in the next minutes. But just to sum it up and to have a very brief look into the next steps. As for now, we, of course, are waiting for as much as possible reply from all of you in terms of expression of a principal interest. This should come as soon as possible, as we really need to start working with you then together in a way to consolidate the different candidates, the different companies, the different ideas, the number of trains, the definition of relevant types, trains, loco, wagon, etc. There is a lot of context, because we need to prepare all of that. For many of them, additional engineering services or whatever are needed. And this will then, that's the second step in April, lead to a refinement of the overall concept and, of course, scope based on the received expression of interest. The third step then in May is to derive the individual and, of course, the overall requirements, needs, preconditions, whatever is needed, just to sum it up, to see, okay, this is needed in order to get this 100 or whatever number of pre-deployment trains become reality. And finally then, as of something like in June, we will develop then the final project structure, and we will then implement the project phase 1, as shown by Jens a couple of minutes ago or seconds ago, which is the preparation of the pre-deployment trains, starting as of July for the upcoming 18 months then. And of course, based on the results, in particular based on the preconditions to be met within this phase 1, the launch of phase 2 will then be decided. This is what Jens made clear with the go and no-go decision. So it's not that we know as for now the future until the year 2040, but we know that we need to do something in order to have a future. And this brings me to the summary. And if you allow me, Jens, to just make some first, let's say, 2 remarks regarding the summary. And I mean, I think you will then make the closing of this presentation, at least. So we don't want to sell you anything or something here. So it's not in our interest, because I mean, it's not a commercial interest, of course, and you can easily understand this coming from the operator perspective. This is not something we would do here, or we are doing here. We want to convince you. We want to convince ourselves, of course. We want to see and want to have proof. And we are working on this very hard, and we are very ambitious, because we do believe it's a chance, it's a huge opportunity. If we do this right, we can have a better world, a better future in our rail freight business in Europe. And there is a lot of chances. Of course, there are risks. But as for now, we see still there is more chances than risks, and we have the power to overcome the risks, working very hard on that in the respective areas, as you have seen. So Jens, maybe some additional closing remarks from your side.
Absolutely not. This was the good motivation speech. Many thanks, Mark. We just have maybe the purely technical information that this is the mailbox to which we ask you to flag your interest and all the information. By the way, there is the general information that you can join the EDTP works. Also the sounding boards demonstrated before here under the link. This is all what you will get. But for the moment, we are more interested in your answers under this info DAC at railresearcheuropa.eu answers. And
maybe some final remarks, some final point from my side. We are grateful, by the way, I don't know if I said it already, to have received and still receiving, of course, funds through the Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking. So there is, regarding the flagship project 5, we're grateful that this finally at the end turned out to be the right way to do that. And of course, enabling all of that would not be possible without Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking and European Commission. And we still see this is not only happening on a random basis. It's also that on this level, people believe that there is a huge chance to change something here, and this is why they are invested. But giving back then the word to Giorgio and the JU for the next round. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Jens. Mark, Giorgio had to leave the meeting just after the introduction, but maybe to introduce the questions and answers, we have one in the chat. It's from an unknown user, and then we have also some hands being raised now. Maybe we can start by the first one. I don't know. Well, Jens, Mark, you have access. All of you have access to the chat, but the question is related to the well, if we will need, and of course, a European process regulating the permissions to operate the pre-deployment trains. DAC-equipped vehicles cannot be authorized in an absence of the TSI provision. So, national country-by-country approach, if that would be an option. So the question is, where do we stand at the moment on this?
Yeah. Mark, shall I quickly, because I think it was mentioned before, to precise that we said authorization, pre-authorization. There will be a meeting within short with the agency. The agency has even set up some requirements they would see, and we know that this is at the moment still a national thing, and we have to discuss with NSAs to come to European, as much as European possible arrangement for that, or at least that it's done by all NSAs in the same way. This is something we are working out, but I think absolutely country by country cannot be an option. We can fully confirm that. And Javier, I mean, this is in your FP5, this where it's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a very valid and, of course, important topic, and we're working on that. So we know exactly as it is written, it's true, and it needs to be dealt with.
Yep. Another question. Yep. Oh,
should I go on
if you are also, yeah, please go ahead, because we have a question from Veronika Petrova stating that the letter was circulated already back in 1 month ago, and then there may be a state where only very basic information to be provided to express the interest, and how detailed should it be? Yeah. That's because that's some of the things in the responses we have been giving to the ones already replying. We have been highlighting that indeed a basic amount of information related to these bullet points should be provided. But please, Mark, yeah.
A very simple answer to that. It should simply, the minimum we would like to see is, I'm expressing my interest of being part of this pre-deployment train phase, and I could imagine to operate at least one train. And then you will be invited to sit on the table and discuss with us what you see as being the challenges here and what we see, what needs to be done. But I think just it's not necessary to come with full concepts here. Just come with the expression of interest.
Indeed, and answering to Eva, we have a comment also here asking on how many of those interests have been we have already received. Not that many, to be honest. I mean, we can be frank in here because that is the purpose also of the info session today. We have received so far, addressing this specific information, we were requesting around 12 to 15 expressions of interest. Okay, but the intention of this info session is, of course, to boost the action and for you to give you additional time to provide. Okay. Another question here, I'm just scrolling down. Can you provide more detailed information on the technological package, especially in automated brake tests?
Javier, this is maybe even a question to you or to the program, to the project manager FP5. Which official deliverables do we have?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer it maybe. So detailed information on the technological package. I think the slides will be shared anyway. Javier, am I right?
Yes.
There you see, once again, you can read it there. Maybe then you have more time to read it. It's regarding the so-called basic package. And of course, the automatic brake test is part of it. If you want to have really detailed information of how this will be done, I propose to contact Javier, and we can arrange, of course, then some deep dive sessions or bilaterals, because I don't know how much time we do have for all the technological details. But automatic brake test is part of the basic package, is part what we have in focus. And of course, it's bringing a lot of advantages and productivity gains.
Indeed, yeah. Well, we have Jürgen that raised the hands from the beginning, so please go ahead with your question, and then I keep on reading the emails, the messages in the chat. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Jürgen Hiller from DB Cargo and UISE. You have mentioned that there will be a kind of test phase and pre-deployment phase, also with pre-deployment trains running across Europe. And you can imagine, and I think we all have the same opinion, that the biggest challenge for the implementation would be to introduce the digital automatic coupling in the single wagon traffic. So I have two questions. In this pre-deployment phase with the trains, are also trains involved from single wagon traffic, because it's a challenge, you know, a lot of different wagons and splitting trains about the hump and so on. And the second question is there already a kind of strategy how to introduce this digital automatic coupling in the single wagon traffic?
So,
or is it too early now for such a?
No, never. So it's not too early. And so regarding the first question, if I may answer directly, Jens Kavi, of course it will be tricky for the 100 trains all over Europe to really cover, let's say, the classic traditional single wagon load. But we also know from Switzerland and Austria, also partly from Germany, that there are certain areas of single wagon load where we have, let's say, something like a closed operation. So if we will be smart, and I do hope that we will be smart. If we are smart here, we'll exactly have a first focus on these kind of categories of single wagon load, because then it's possible to manage it. But in principle, you're right. So the overall single wagon load, of course, is far too complex to start with the pre-deployment trains. Still, we need to have as much as possible some first let's say, areas and parts of it included in the pre-deployment trains, because we need to also have proven somehow on the commercial level the idea of the DAC system operating there. And the second question, maybe Jens, you can answer this from the migration point of view.
Yeah, exactly. So and also to add to your Jürgen, you are fully right. I mean, what we cannot do is to make the migration before the migration. Yeah, because if you make if you operate commercial services in single wagon load, then you touch the whole single wagon load fleet. That means either you find something separable, as Mark said, or this idea is also on the table. We organize something separated. This would not necessarily be a commercial traffic, but it is possible to shuttle between different shunting yards in the so-called hollow hours, you know, and to have operation and shunting areas there where you don't interfere with the rest. This is a separated, isolated testing environment and not really for customers, but this is a possibility how we can get to testing in shunting yards as well. Yeah, so there are ideas on the table. And then for the later migration, this is the overall migration concept for later. I mean, there are the concepts on the table. Ask back at home. Maybe this is something for a special dedicated info session, you know, with the block trains separated and then the more simultaneously approach to single wagon load. There is still not the last word spoken. And in any case, before we can do that, we need to have this testing that you mentioned, you know, that it really works.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, some last year or the year before, I've heard something about a pairing strategy that always two wagons will be together. And from my point of view, that would be a good possibility. But of course, that's a decision should be done during the pre-deployment phase.
Yeah, that's for the full deployment. That's for the full deployment then. But you're right. Of course, this scenario is still on the table and subject for further detailing as for now.
And imagine what can be tested in such a pre-deployment phase. Then we can really turn it from left to right and forth and back and see if it really works and how quick it works. And then we have certainty for the big run, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe another question that might be interesting for the audience. Exactly, Mark, is a question from Eva Lafmeyer saying that and will the operators and the players having to pay for the retrofitting wagons and locos themselves? Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So let me answer this directly. So of course, as for now, you don't have to pay for, let's say, me or the organization of everything here. So there is a lot of, let's say, paying and contributing on a freelancer basis, if I put it that way, on a voluntary basis from a lot of partners here. So there is a lot of initiative, a lot of enthusiasm, as Jens mentioned it, coming from gratefully, thankfully, from a lot of different sides. There will be a certain point, of course, for the pre-deployment trains, and that's exactly what we need to right now develop based on the facts and figures we collect together with you sitting together on the table once we design all of that, to say, okay, will it be enough that from the operator or wagon keeper perspective, it's that you bring in the wagons, you bring in the locos and the trains, and the supervision and the equipment of the technology, etc., can be funded through other channels. That's something we're working on. It's too early to say if we will be successful, but it's exactly something we need to work together with you sitting on the table. We will work that out, and that's what I meant when we summarize all the needs, then we know how much we need.
Yeah, that is somehow linked with one of the other questions we have here in between the comments from Antoine. That is okay. I think with the answer you just gave is replying to that. Antoine is raising the fact or the issue that why there is a proposal authorizing mega trucks at the same time that we are promoting DAC for rail freight. Well, maybe this is not something or the scope of the discussion here, but yeah, might be something that it's adding to the here that is both in complete contradiction. But well. Then we have another.
Yes. But can I just say that the discussion that we are having today is pointless if mega trucks are adopted. Huh? That's not for joke. Huh? That's serious.
Yeah. You cannot only prepare the attack; you also have to prepare the defense. Yeah, both at the same time.
Maybe in the meanwhile, Mark Valette, you were raising the hand, so please go ahead while I'm reading also some of the questions. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mark Valette from CFL Cargo. First, thank you for the presentation, very interesting. I have 3 questions concerning, you started to mention about the answers or expression of interest. Okay, making a later, it's very good because we are interested, but to what extent you are expecting into this later? Do you want an expression of the concept? Do you want some estimations of the cost on all the techniques? Because at the moment there is many interrogation about that. So what is the limitation that you would expect? Second point, it is that, okay, you have presented that the brake test is now becoming mandatory, as we have understood on the beginning of this presentation. Is it the case? Because at the moment we know that there is no so much technology really available and workable on the markets. And are we sure that all the manufacturers of DAC are really able to provide these functionalities? Because it's a key question. On the last point, as you know, in Luxembourg, we are not the biggest railway company in Europe. What are the criteria that you intend to take into consideration for the train selection if we have hundreds of potential trains? Is it mileage? Is it operation? To be sure that we can make an interest with something that makes sense. Thank you.
If I may answer the first and the third question, as starting with the third one, the criteria, mileage, operational conditions, whatever. So I'd say it needs to be seen all together. So we want to see as much as possible different operational conditions, of course. But this should not be, let's say, this should not bother you, because you should, and that's also the answer for the first question. The moment you could imagine that you can, under certain conditions, of course, be partner of this initiative of operating pre-deployment trains, please simply express your principal interest. And of course, include whatever you have at your heart, in your mind, whatever, limitations, as well as, let's say, some additional ideas. We would be more than happy to then sit together with you and discuss this in a bilateral meeting. And that's everything we need to know is, as for now, that you are interested in principle and that you are interested in further discussing this issue. That would be enough. It would really be enough. Because otherwise, if we limit it right now, there's a lot of complexity, and then it could lead that you may say or may think, okay, no, that's not the case for me, but maybe it was a misunderstanding. So we need to sort this out sitting together. Otherwise, it will be too complex and too complicated for all parties involved, I guess. And the second question, well, the coupler, the manufacturing industry regarding couplers is involved in the development work. So they are capable of providing this technology at the end. They will be capable, and they work together in the JU within this joint undertaking here in order to agree together with us, the operators, wagon keepers, on their specification, the technical specification of this technology, as this will be a single European system. So at the end, we will have a harmonized single European system, and we will have coupler manufacturers being capable of providing it.
Okay, thank you for the information.
Thank you, Mark. There is another question, but maybe also linked to the planning and all these actions that will come after all the expressions of interest are received, and it's also a contribution from Eva on how we would be checking on the value of the new solution if those trains would run amidst traffic based on the old technology, and how this would be a plan somehow in there. So that's one of the aspects of having your interest. So this further plan and then sharing of these future actions would be that. But in case you want to add anything else, Mark, Jens, on this comment.
You said it.
Yeah, you said it, then, and I couldn't find it, so just let me double check then, and maybe I will add something later on. But yeah, as you said.
Then there was here, I thought the deadline for an expression of interest was the 29th of February. Now exactly, Carol, we have, it has been decided to extend this deadline based on the answers we had received so far. So in that sense, yeah, we are expecting mid-March would be the new deadline. Okay, and based on the planning that was presented in the slides, then we have to start working on this based on all the answers received in April and May with the following actions. But it's going to be postponed until mid-March. Okay.
But may I add something on this? So
yeah, Mark, go ahead. Yeah.
As said already a couple of times, but I think it's important to once again stress this. So if you are interested in principle, it's not necessary that you double check all the uncertainties and concerns you have. Simply express your interest. That's enough for now, because the remaining part can then be sorted out together with you. So do not invest too much time in calculation or whatever. Does it make sense or not for me? If you're interested in it, express the interest, please. That would be very helpful, and we would be grateful to receive as much as possible expressions from you.
Yeah. Maybe in the meanwhile, Wolf from BAB, please go ahead while I read some other questions later on. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I'm Wolfgang Deutschle from the Federal Office of Transport in Switzerland, and I only want to say Switzerland is on board. We started many trains with a mechanical automatic coupler in 2019, and we have done many things, and they run every day, and they run in a commercial sector in Switzerland. And from the year before last, we built up a test train, the DAC Plus test train, to test the digital functionalities. No? And now we want to start up the pre-deployment trains in Switzerland. Unfortunately, the SBB answers on your letter that they couldn't run such trains because they have no money, and indeed they have no money. But now we will give money to it, and we are currently preparing the funding to it.
Always very helpful, something like this.
and I think we start this year, and we want to build up one pilot train this year and next year to come to an EC authorization, and then we want to build up from 26 a couple of trains for a sub network in the single wagon load traffic in Switzerland. Es ist jemand.
Yeah, we need to mute, please. We need to mute someone.
Okay, and I only want to say this: we are on board, and we take part in the project.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes, perfect. Perfect.
There was another question here. How do you see? I just lost it because I was looking for the
leasing companies.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, Christian Bessler, maybe Mark, I can, because the operation is done by the railway undertakings, but not everybody has own locos and own wagons. That means the same question here as for the locos goes also for the wagon lessor and leasing companies. That means if we find for a railway undertaking someone who is using a rail pole or Akiem or whatever loco, that would be nice if maybe then we could discuss with you if you could provide a loco for the refurbishment, for the retrofit to DAC, you know, same as also for the wagons. Maybe then wagon keepers want to contribute to that, because you as a railway undertaking, maybe you just have, you know, things lent together and leased together, and these are not your own assets, but you could operate a train, and this needs then to be discussed in a bundle, right?
Yeah. In the meanwhile, looking back, please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Javier.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Luc Imbert from VAPTEC and active participant in FP5. So the expression of interest seems to be addressed mostly at operators. However, the involvement of the industry on many topics is important and fundamental. Therefore, I was wondering if you also expect to have a feedback from the industrial companies, and if so, in particular from the companies actively participating to FP5.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yes, this is also a very important part of the story, and of course, we're interested to receive an expression of interest from the manufacturing industry. Regarding those partners being, let's say, partners in the flagship project 5, of course, we have a chance to directly discuss this on a bilateral basis, as we are working together on a daily basis. But if someone else, in addition, that's a complete open and transparent procedure, so it's open to everyone. So please express the interest, please.
Indeed, and adding to that, Luke, we have already received expressions of interest from entities in charge of maintenance, for instance. So, I mean, any expression of interest is more than welcome. And then once we have all those, we will start analyzing and seeing how we put the pieces together. Yeah. but thank you very much. Do we have an estimation of the total cost, logs, locomotive logs, locos and wagons, and is there a cost-benefit analysis from Ruud Keizer?
Yeah, maybe the estimation is already set out in the sector statement, from last year. We said roughly 2 million per trains. It sums up to 200. Half is equipment, half is operation. But your indications would really help us to see what precisely authorization costs, reauthorization we need to see. Yeah. Is there a cost-benefit analysis for a pre-deployment? It's embedded in the overall CBA of the DAC, but certainly not for this special phase. This is a testing phase.
Definitely. So there will be for the testing of 2 years of this technology and for getting proof of what already mentioned a couple of times, there will be no CBA for that in particular. So that's the overall CBA. And of course, for the full deployment, there will be a CBA and it will be updated. There is already one, but it's, let's say, on a regular basis being updated with the new developments and information we are gaining and gathering during this development works. But at the end, of course, there will be a final CBA, as I mentioned in the preconditions, and based on that, we will have to make the decisions regarding the investment.
Thank you very much, Ruud. Maria Antonietta is also raising a question. Thanks. Shall we express interest for a pre-deployment train or for a specific role, wagons, locos, local providers, etc.?
Of course, that's possible, but you can express it in whatever kind of specific area if you want to. So of course, so whatever kind of interest you want to express, please express it. And I think we could use everything and everyone in this context.
Although we encourage certainly railway undertakings to especially come up with some trains.
Of course. But this is then showing proof for operations. So we need at the end build up something to have proof for operating this on a commercial basis. Javier, if you allow me, there is one, I don't know if we touched this already. I do not believe that European approval for DAC will be available prior to the start of the train. If someone will volunteer for such train, who will organize and take care about authorization procedure, etc. How about cross-border traffic? That's exactly an issue we need to sort out. We have, of course, the discussion ongoing with European Railway Agency. We will then discuss this with the numerous NSAs in the member states. There is, I'd say, not only one option we are having here. There might be 2 or 3 different options need to be sorted out based on also the respective national regulation, but it's a general question here, and we want to touch this also on a general level, how we deal with innovation in rail, because it's not only referring to the DAC. We need to find a way how to deal with that, as we want to see technology first being proven and then later standardized and then later formally authorized. If you want to have it the other way around, it might be always tricky. So we might have some innovation in terms of proceedings here as well. At least this is something I'm trying to encourage everyone to discuss this. So not yet fully answered this question, but it's on the radar and it's in our agenda.
And Javier, if we can maybe take the question from Peter Jindran, from GD Cargo, a very important board member here.
Yes, please go ahead.
You see in the end of 2028, there will be a go, no-go point. And if there is a no-go chosen, what will happen to the 100 trains? And I think, Peter, this refers to the overall program. If we think, you have seen the preconditions that Mark mentioned, migration available, funding available, technology works, and so on. If this all works and everybody is convinced, there's no reason for a no-go. If there's a good reason for a no-go, then there will be no further actions. We don't know why it should happen, but it can. Maybe lacking money or whatever. And then we have to see, and maybe even Javier to agree in those funding conditions that even the refurbishment to the original state is somehow also covered. That needs to be, I think we should take up this idea in the case of a failure, but this should not be our first and most important problem, hopefully.
But still the idea is of stepwise mitigating the risk in a way before we touch, I don't know, the 15 billion investment. Of course, we need to have proof. And of course, this means we need to invest maybe then 200 million. There is always a slight risk. This is why it's not a full deployment, it's a pre-deployment. But on the other side, I'd say I would have loved to see something like that at the beginning of the implementation of ETCS, because then we would have saved, let's say, billions of euro altogether as a sector, as there is a huge learning curve as for now, as you all know. So it's exactly to avoid such kind of situation why we encourage everyone and why we push so much for this intermediate step before we discuss and decide up in the full deployment then.
I'm just scrolling here. I think it was related to what Ruud was mentioning. What are the finance possibilities, but linked to the cost-benefit analysis that was answered so far. Scrolling down, I see also in the presentation it is written currently mainly unfunded. Currently mainly unfunded. What is funded? Thanks.
Javier, you know best.
Well, as you know well, the joint undertaking is at the moment funding those activities on the research and development progress of the solution, or to implement that solution, and that is what we mean with funding proposals that are linked to the activities that will later on help push this initiative. So that's what we is intended with the funded activities so far, at least from the research and innovation point of view.
Yeah, and maybe if I may add something to this, Javier. So the flagship project 5,
exactly.
In the innovation pillar, it's a TPC, total project cost, something like close to 100 million euros for the development, and it's from the private partners. It's something like I don't know, 50%. How it depends how you calculate it, but there is a significant money coming from the private partners, and of course from the JU, it's topped. So this is funded. And it's so important that this is the core, because there we will develop the technology. And there is a lot of other smaller parts regarding the migration planning, etc., where we stepwise have found solutions to co-fund. We always need to name it that way. It's not always fully funded. In many cases, it's co-funded. And yeah, that's at least something we will try to also find a solution for the pre-deployment trains, to have a co-funding mechanism in place on the national and European level. That's what we fight for. I cannot guarantee it as for now, but that's subject to be discussed during the development of the concept with all of you.
Yeah, and Javier, you should also add, I mean, imagine upcoming calls for engineering solutions and so on for the vehicles. Yeah, it's all all on your side, you know.
Yeah.
This is all stepwise to go into this.
I don't see any more questions, and then maybe what we can do before circulating the slides, James, would be also maybe we can reflect all these questions and maybe the answers, even if the recording will be available. Okay, that maybe it could be a good action from our side. And then because we are already, I mean, and I see some people already leaving the meeting. So first of all, last but not least, thank you, Jens, Mark, the colleagues for the preparation, and all of you for attending today. And I mean, just highlight again and encourage you to submit or to send us these expressions of interest in the way you consider, so we can later on assess and put the pieces together. And based on that, well, we will keep in touch with you. The ones that are already provided to us already or send these expressions of interest have been already replied accordingly. But please don't hesitate to send any questions you may have, because we are replying as fast as we can. Mark,
Javier, yes, final word from my side. So we have been something like 143. It was the highest number I've seen in the chat. So I'm expecting, let's say, 50%, 60%, 70% of those people expressing their interest. So I'm very happy to see then 60 to 70 expressions of interest being received by the JU in the upcoming weeks. Let's hope for that, colleagues, please. It's important. Let's try it. Let's try to push for this transformation, and together we can do it. So we are depending on your support in this context, and we are grateful for receiving as much as possible expression of interest. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Jens, anything to finish?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Last word is the joint undertaking.
Yeah, last hand raise I see right now. Wait a minute. So I know. No, maybe it was a mistake. Okay. Well, then thank you very much all. The recording will be made available, and then we'll keep in touch for whatever you may need. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.